Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today I am taking a look at the 2018 movie, The Dread Rattlin. Now, I am going to do something that I do very, as little as possible. I try not to do it at all, but sometimes my hand is forced, and this is one of those times. I am actively discouraging people from watching this movie. This was really just that bad. Oftentimes a bad horror movie works on some fundamental level, either laughing at it with friends or just, checking it off your list, broadening your horizons, that kind of thing. This was irredeemably terrible, and I barely would even call it a movie at all. It clocked in at an hour and 20 minutes, so it's a full-length motion picture, but a movie, I don't know. It was almost more like an hour and 20-minute long avant-garde bad student filmmaker attempt at visual art more than anything else. But to get into it, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot, according to the film's synopsis, I'll read it to you. University students investigate a noise phenomenon in haunted woods known as the Rattlin. That's about as good as I could ever put a synopsis of what this movie was. Really, it had no plot. It had no real characters. There were actors that sometimes talked with one another about things that are completely irrelevant to any sort of coherent storyline, occasionally bringing up the Rattlin in the woods and the scary phenomenon, and then occasionally going through what looks like the DTs a bit, but ultimately nothing happens. There's no conflict, there's no developed characters, there's no coherent dialogue, there is absolutely no plot. None. Really, you just get a random assortment of characters that are just talking with one another and occasionally bring up the Rattlin in the woods. That's it. For an hour and 20 minutes. It is that really nothing else to it. And it was infuriating to have to sit through and watch. I wanted to turn it off after 20 minutes, but I really feel like it's my responsibility. If I am going to review a movie, I need to watch it all the way till the end credits. Maybe it would have redeemed itself. Maybe it would have turned itself around. I don't have the luxury of shutting it off, but this movie made me want to very quickly, and it never got any better from there. Considering there was no plot, I can't even give it participation points. This got a 0 out of 25. The intent, this wasn't scary. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't coherent. It wasn't thought-provoking. It wasn't anything. 0 on the intent. I couldn't give it anything. Whatever it was trying to do, it was trying to be scary. It was trying to have interesting characters. It was trying to have a mythos of the Rattlin in the woods. If it was trying to have anything, it failed miserably, unless it was trying to be an incoherent mess that just ticked off the audiences, but I'm not going to give it any points for that. I think that's far reached in the first place, but regardless, 0 out of the intent. The acting, I gave a 3 out of 25. I couldn't really say that there was a whole lot of acting to this. There were actors. They had lines. They did say them poorly. That's about it, period. There wasn't any emotion behind them of any sort. There wasn't any development. There wasn't any gravitas or anything that, arcs or whatever that they went through. It was just simply, it looked like volunteers saying some lines and going home. That was about it. And so, yeah, okay, I give it some participation points for that. Technically, that was about the most meat that you will find on the bones of this movie. The technical, bad camera work. The only effect in the movie to be had was vomit, which, I'm not a huge fan of vomit in movies or in general, but it doesn't, I'm not going to take points away for it just because I'm not a fan of it. But even so, it didn't look at all like vomit. It looked like somebody kind of had a mouthful of cottage cheese and that was it. Into a plastic bag or into a bucket or whatever. It was stupid. So, I mean, that was the only effect. There was no blood. There was no gore. So, really, you had to rely on, as far as technical goes, camera work, lighting, and editing. And all of it was absolutely terrible, miserable, especially the editing. This movie suffered from so many double exposure shots that were totally unnecessary, one frame over top of another. With an opacity that let them bleed through to one another, that had nothing to do with anything. Every time, like I said, the characters had some dialogue, it would do 50 different cuts of a simple dialogue scene where it would, go up close to one character, then back, then up close to another character, then back, then another angle, then up close, and then back, and did it while they're just saying a sentence. It was distracting. It was disorienting. It was just miserable from an editing standpoint. Not to mention the sound editing was also miserable. Half the dialogue was done at one pitch. Half the dialogue was done at another. The background white noise was just completely off. So every time it switched angles, it switched the back end noise of it, which is just a rookie mistake. The music's, what music they had was just really out of place. It was off-putting. Nothing about this worked, so I gave the technical 0 out of 25, which gives us a grand total of 3 out of 100 points. By far, the lowest scoring movie I have ever reviewed on this channel to date. And those were mostly just participation points in the first place. This was the worst movie that I have reviewed on Rotted Reviews, and I think it's going to be a while before it's dethroned. This is a movie that is worth passing. If you see it available to stream, don't waste your hour and 20 minutes. If you see it available to rent, don't waste your money on it. Certainly don't waste your money on it. Time is one thing. I mean, time is money, and your priorities of life and so forth. Regardless, it's not worth it. Whatever investment you have of time, money, effort, anything, it is absolutely not worth it. Please take my advice. Let me suffer in your stead. Pass it by. Watch something else. That's my review of the Dread Rattlin. Thank you for joining me here today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you see me tomorrow. Next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.